Hi, welcome to Off Script. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Today on the show, we're taking a look at The Substance. Dude, I'm so excited to talk about The Substance. This is one of those weeks when, it's really cool having a movie podcast where we can talk about this exciting new feature coming out. We didn't have this on a top 10 most anticipated this year. Andy and I did not see this movie coming. Stick around for our review of The Substance. It's rad. We're also going to take a look at His Three Daughters. This was a Netflix feature, kind of smaller, came out this weekend from writer director Azazel Jacobs. Pretty fantastic cast, intimate, small, thoughtful, family matters. It's good stuff, actually. I'm excited to talk about it, so stick around for our review on that. We're going to talk about some upcoming releases in October, because it's actually a pretty stacked month, believe it or not. I think we're going to have multiple weeks of multiple films that you're going to want to see coming out at the movies. We're going to tell you which ones are worth your time. And, of course, we're going to take a look at that new Thunderbolts trailer and that Sinners trailer from Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, all that to come. First things first, so we got to get to the news. Our first story this week. Theater owners are planning to spend $2.2 billion to modernize and upgrade the movie-going experience. This is a recent announcement from a number of theater chains, AMC, Regal, Cinemark, Harkins. Everybody's in, everybody's investing. But there may be more than just brighter picture and better sound coming to these theaters. Andy, people said things like pickleball, ziplines are coming to the movie theaters. What is this about?
The circus is coming to town, yes.
Yeah.
Theater owners are going to be investing in theaters with things like better projection and better seating, but they're also, looks like they're getting into the gimmicks game. And some theaters already have this. There's a photo here of this theater out of Red Oak, Texas, that has this B&B theater that has a pickleball court out in front of the theater. And so it seems like they're trying to have other attractions to bring people by, maybe be some sort of like multi, like a kind of main event kind of space. I don't know if this is the move or if this is going to get people in, but apparently they're going to be trying it.
One of the things I thought was really interesting about this is when the timing of this is happening. Variety had this story. It said the upgrade plans come as the after effects of the pandemic and Hollywood strikes continue to affect the exhibition business, with summer box office totals running about 13% below last year. And that's an interesting metric. People have asked since we've been doing this show. I just talked to Andy about it last week. I said, do you think numbers are back up to where they were before COVID? Andy, do you want to answer that? Because I think people would be surprised by.
Oh no, not at all. We are. It's hard to measure because 2019 was an incredible year, like a banner year in film, and so the drop off seems even more steep. You really have to look at the previous decades, but we still are like 20% behind pre-COVID numbers, and it's going to take longer to recover. And this summer is actually down like 13%, I think, from the previous year, the previous summer. So it's rough out there.
Obviously, we're some real movie heads in here. So what I'm looking for is better picture and better sound, right? Like, I know those old Sony projectors that AMC's been running are starting to get a little outdated. Could maybe stand to have some refreshed screens. There's a couple screens around here I've seen with like drinks smeared across them when somebody threw stuff at them. And hey, it's better sound is always good. Those Dolby theaters aren't messing around. But it sounds a whole lot like the things that are going to be offered in this big initiative are going to be extracurricular activities, right? That you do out in the lobby with the family, like pickleball or putt-putt or maybe even a zip line. That all sounds fun, but that also just makes it sound like my ticket price is going to increase for things I don't actually want to participate in. And is that something you concerned about at all? What do you think?
I mean, the cost, but also then people are going, but not going to the movies. You know, like they might just show up to play pickleball or to hit the zip line. I was thinking like, we need something where people can just kind of hang out, maybe movies happening every now and then. And then I realized that's a mall. We have that. We had that. And it's outdated and people don't really use the mall in that way anymore. So I think the big problem with this is that you're using gimmicks and you got to get, people have to rediscover the love of film. Like that's what gets people into the theater. And that's a very hard ask. That's difficult. Like, how do you do that? How do you put that into a marketing strategy? I don't know, but that's for theaters to figure out. But this other thing, like come and do this other thing and not watch the movie, I think is misguided.
Yeah, kind of me too. We'll get to more of this as developments progress here on Off Script Film Review. I'm sure we'll hear more about this in the months to come, so we'll report back. For now, our next story this week. 28 years later, Danny Boyle's new zombie flick is shot on an iPhone 15. This is making waves, I think, this week or last week at least. When this debuted on Twitter, people revealing that there was this photo of the set of 28 Years Later, this new zombie flick that Danny Boyle's working on, and there's like this big lens camera rig that runs in just a little rectangle. And we're realizing now that that's an iPhone, and that there's, according to some reports, they're shooting on an iPhone 15. What do you know about this, Andy?
I mean, I feel like this story makes the rounds every few years about a movie being shot. I mean, it's kind of misleading because, yes, are you using an iPhone? Yes, and it has like a $20,000 lens and rig set up to it. I was like, I feel like that doesn't really count. They make it sound like, he just whipped it out of his back pocket and started shooting the whole movie, and that's not the case. The rest of the setup is still very, very professionally done. But part of the reason to use phones and kind of a lower kind of standard technology is to give it that more kind of authentic found footage kind of feel. The original 28 Days Later was shot in like 480p at the time, which was way under the standard even for 2002, 2004. But it gave it that real grimy, grainy streets look that they were going for in that movie.
Yeah, that's really the only saving grace, I think, here for me, that the older films in the series were shot on lo-fi cameras on purpose. After that, it just seems like a bit of a gimmick. Yeah, this camera rig, we got it up on the live stream. It's crazy looking. Like, it looks like a $15,000 like lens and rig attached to a $1,500 iPhone. And like, I don't know. I have trouble seeing how that's worth it, because film buffs, I think, will brush it off as a gimmick, and general audiences won't know the difference. Like, when this gets blown up and fixed in post and looks clean, like, people will not know that it was shot on an iPhone 15. So I don't really know who this benefits. I guess there's your budget, of course. You're saving some money, not running a huge camera rig, but also, like, I'm imagining Danny Boyle or a cinematographer, like, literally reaching forward for a take and, like, hitting the red record button, boop, on, like, a touchscreen iPhone to record their movie. And, like, I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but it can't be much more complicated than that. And I don't know. I don't know who this impresses. Like, cool, I guess, neat. I think it will look fine on screen. I don't think you'll be able to tell a difference.
This is coincidentally coming out about a week after Apple announced their new iPhone 16. So no free ads here, but it's coincided with the release of the new phone, which I don't think is any accident. And I'm looking at this picture and I cannot find the iPhone in this rig. Like, the rig is so massive. Yeah. Like, I don't know where the iPhone is. I cannot see it.
Right. Yeah. So. I don't know. We'll see. Huh? And hey, for what it's worth, I've 28 days and 28 months later are solid for me. I would definitely go watch 28 Years Later. So keep it here for more. Wuthering Heights. We're going to talk about this movie. This is a late add to the off-script outline, but I think it's worth talking about. Emerald Fennell, right? Saltburn director, is directing a Wuthering Heights adaptation. And now we know who's starring in it. Andy, who is our Heathcliff and whoever the other lady is?
Catherine Earnshaw is the heroine, and big names in this casting. Margot Robbie will be playing Catherine Earnshaw, and Jacob Elordi will be playing Heathcliff. And this has been generating a lot of discussion. I'm not going to say buzz, but discourse on film Twitter, as everyone's saying, like, these are too old, because in the novel, this is the only novel from Emily Bronte, and it's about landed gentry in Victorian England, and the characters are like late teens, early 20s, and Margot Robbie is now in her mid 30s, Jacob Elordi in his late 20s, so they've drastically aged people up. However, it's unclear if this is like a period piece adaptation or if it's going to be a more current version otherwise. But a lot of people were saying, like, I'm kind of bored of seeing the same like 5 people cast and everything, and maybe this would have been an exciting opportunity to have, find some young new talent, make some new stars.
Could be. I feel like I could stand to watch Jacob Elordi in another production. And for what it's worth, I think Margot Robbie's taken a break to have a kid after Barbie. Good for her. It's good to see her announcing that she'll be in something again. I'm like, all right, that's rad. Like, I like Robbie. Looking forward to that. And I don't mind an old-fashioned adaptation, especially from something from the 1800s. What I am a little afraid of is Emerald Fennell at the helm, right? Like, I saw somebody on Twitter today say that watching an Emerald Fennell film was like taking a bite of a rotten apple. couple. Because like the first half of it seems so solid. Like, oh man, promising young woman, Saltburn, both have a great start. And then as you get into it, you're like, oh, this is not quite.
This is going nowhere.
Yeah, and like I like both of those movies in the same way, and then by the time I got to the credits, I was like, oh no, it just didn't quite stick the landing in the way I'd hoped. Anything could happen in Wuthering Heights. Like I have no idea where it's headed. I have not read the original book. I'm gonna try to keep an open mind about it. But yeah, I think a little wary of where Fennel's headed next. I think she's got a solid eye for direction. I don't know what happens with this though.
I've said this before that I think Emerald Fennell is a great director, but a poor screenwriter. Ironically, that's what she has an Oscar for, is for the screenplay to Promising Young Woman. But I've said before that she should work. I think she would be good directing someone else's script. Like someone else needs to do the writing, she can do the directing. I wonder if that might help some in this case, where Wuthering Heights is, of course, a novel. And that's been adapted multiple times. So there's lots of, it's different doing an adaptation. So maybe she'll be able to stick the landing. But Emerald Fennell does have a lot of style, and I'm willing to keep giving her a chance. It's like M. Night Shyamalan. Like, you got to give her a chance. She may disappoint you every time, but you got to give her a chance.
Yes, I will go see Wuthering Heights in theaters. So, like, keep it here for more. One more story before we get to the substance. Big surprise at the box office this week. Transformers 1 loses to Beetlejuice in a surprise upset. What's going on, Andy? Why is Paramount's new Transformers film not crushing it?
You know, sometimes you do everything right, and it's like Louis B. Mayer said, founder of MGM, like, no one knows anything in this business. Transformers 1 came in at 25 million. Huge, like, very positive critic scores, audience scores, A+, positive post-track, and it's like doing okay. It's doing mediocre numbers. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice continues to rake it in. It's made $329 million, so that's well over its $80 million budget. It's doing well. Deadpool Wolverine still in the top 5. So I feel bad when a new movie like Transformers 1 can't find a great audience, but maybe it'll have legs because it's had very positive word of mouth.
Yeah, I think the problem with Transformers 1 comes from Paramount's marketing, right? It's too soft. Like, it's not the lack of live action that softens it, but it's like the soft facial features, and all of them are like young Transformers, and they're still on like the planet, and it just looks like a kid's movie for kids. Like, that kind of is who it's angled at. So I think a lot of adults who would normally turn out for a Transformers feature are like, oh, this is the kid one, and then they just don't go see it. And it's like, that's kind of a shame because it seems to be getting great reviews. Everybody seems to think it's really good. I don't know. It might be a banger. It might be a solid Transformers feature, but I think Paramount just kind of aimed at the wrong people, you know? But what are you going to do? Like, you're going to aim at adults? You're going to aim at kids? Obviously, you got a better shot aiming at kids. Also, oddly enough, I do hope this opens a bit of avenue for DreamWorks' Wild Robot next week. I keep hearing good stuff about that one, and I do love Lupita Nyong'o. So, like, maybe if Transformers 1 is a little soft, that movie might have a chance. It might have some legs.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. I've seen some clips even, and everyone's raving about it, that this is probably one of the best Transformers movies made. It is aimed at younger audiences. It's more in the like Sonic the Hedgehog kind of realm. But also I've heard that Paramount kind of fumbled the marketing of it, kind of like they did with the Dungeons and Dragons movie. It's like a great movie that you didn't sell to the public good enough.
Hey, real quick, speaking of movies that haven't sold to the public good enough, before we talk about it, can we talk about how The Substance is done this weekend and where we think it might be going? Because I'm very, very much looking forward to talking about it, and that seems like a good segue to get into the movie.
I did see that it made, did it make the top 5? But it made sixth place with 3.1 million. A great start for the little indie that could, especially something that is a hard R horror movie, not family friendly, not 4-quadrant at all. In the first film distributed by Mubi, the free TV channel, funny enough, but it's a great start for them.
Yeah, it really is. I hope Substance makes it into more theaters. I hope just like Skinamarink had like a bit of a run at the end, or even like Terrifier 2, like just a couple weeks out, they were like, actually, we should extend this out and get this in front of more people. Like, hopefully it gets some of that love. With that, we should jump into the movie. No better time. Andy has graciously agreed to take the summary on this one. Andy, please take it away.
The Substance. So this is the sophomore film from French director Coralie Fargeat. Her first film was called Revenge back in 2017, 2018, which I haven't seen, but that I've heard is a very gritty, very gory kind of retake on the revenge genre. The Substance stars Demi Moore as Elizabeth Sparkle, an aging Hollywood star, someone who started in the 80s, huge person, very successful, and she's approaching her 50th birthday, and she has this very successful like exercise Jane Fonda style show. And as her birthday approaches, Dennis Quaid, who's her really slimy and gross boss, tells her, once a woman turns 50, it's kind of over for her. She, we need something, it's funny because he dances around what he's trying to say, which is you're too old for the show now. She loses this position, and through a series of events comes to learn about the Substance, something that promises to make a younger, more beautiful, perfect version of yourself. She's hesitant at first, but she feels her career kind of going down the drain and opts into the Substance. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because it's a lot of fun, but the premise is you birth kind of a clone of yourself, and the younger version of you gets to be that for 7 days, but then they have to switch, and then Elizabeth has to be 7 days of her. The younger version is named Sue, played by Margaret Qualley, who immediately goes out and gets like the job that Elizabeth Sparkle had, and is enjoying like the fame and the youth because, oh, you're so beautiful and you're perfect, and she knows all the moves already to all the dance stuff. But of course, this is something that cannot last and will go horribly wrong, because Sue eventually, she wants more time. 7 days isn't enough. She has this fabulous life, and she wants more and more, and this of course brings up a huge clash to come. This is one of the craziest movies I've ever seen, maybe my favorite horror movie of the year so far. I was not prepared. Everyone's been buzzing, talking about it. We've been looking forward to this to a long time. Zach, what did you think?
You're going to hear some big words about The Substance when people talk about it. You're going to hear things like masterpiece or modern classic or instant hit, a must-see for horror fans, an epic. All of these things are true. The Substance is amazing. The Substance is amazing. It's the kind of art like you can't believe you saw after you've seen it. And it almost demands a rewatch. It's so cool and so neat and so twisted and so delightful in the way that it makes you writhe in your chair and makes you wildly uncomfortable in physical fashion, mental. It makes you nauseous. It makes you scared. It makes you laugh. The Substance is amazing. It is an amazing sophomore feature from Coralie Fargeat. I cannot wait to see what she does next. I need to go watch her previous film, Revenge. I am so excited we get to talk about The Substance on this podcast. Andy, where do we start talking about it?
Man, there's so many places to start. I want to start with our performances, though. Demi Moore is incredible as Elizabeth Sparkle. She is this kind of pained woman, and she looks amazing. And what's also incredible is Demi Moore is 60, almost 60, and she's playing younger. She's playing a 50-year-old. Looks incredible, but she has this kind of this body dysmorphia, this self-loathing, a lot of it, and it comes from she feels her career threatened and goes to these extreme measures. So there's a lot of symbolism in what we do to ourselves because of our obsession of youth and beauty. Margaret Qualley is incredible as Sue. She had to transform her body herself to be kind of this younger, thinner version, and she's leered at so much of the camera. It is so gross. Like whenever they do these dance videos, yes. The Demi Moore versions are very clean and 80s, and the more modern versions are just like lots of twerking, camera everywhere, and it's just, you feel gross and lecherous. And then of course Dennis Quaid, who plays the slimy Harvey, is I guess his name, but he's just so gross, and the camera is all in your face. But we have three incredible performances. All of them deserve to be like Oscar nominated. We'll see if that happens or not.
Yeah, I people have been calling this the performance of Demi Moore's career, and I'm having a hard time disagreeing. And yes, I understand her previous work. She is so perfectly cast in this role. It's like Michael Keaton in Birdman. Like, you could not have landed like a better person to fit this character of Elizabeth Sparkles, this aging woman who is horrified that everything is going away and that the ride is over. And when she gets the opportunity to get another pass at it with the substance, she can't help herself but take it. And of course, she realizes how great it is to have this beautiful version of yourself, but also is horrified to find like what is left when the best parts of you are plucked out and specifically taken away. Like what is left of that husk of a person. And like, it's such a delightfully awful dive down the rabbit hole, man, that you just can't come back from. I love the way the substance continues to escalate the stakes, because in this Jekyll and Hyde like fashion, it at least first appears to be something you can predict. Okay, she's going to take this thing. Margaret Qualley is going to come into the film. That Margaret Qualley is going to gain power being this beautiful one, and then Demi Moore's character may lack power, and there's going to be kind of this struggle for who is really the one, who is the important Elizabeth Sparkles when it comes to the substance. It goes so much further than that. Oh my God, it goes so much further than that. In places I didn't expect. It horrifies in ways I didn't know I could be horrified. At one point I was twisted up in my chair with my hands covering my face. Andy and I saw it together. I'm sure at a number of points you could probably hear me say in my seat, like, oh God, no. Oh no. Like, we're not going here. It is a thrill ride you cannot get off of. And I say all of that to compliment its runtime, because at nearly 2.5 hours, any other movie I'd say it's too long. Any other movie, I'd say it's too much. Not The Substance. Demands it. Deserves it. It deserves its flowers. A delightful trip all the way through.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into the horror of it all, because after all, that's what this is. It's kind of a dark fairy tale, and it succeeds in a lot of ways. There's lots of references to other horror properties, things like Videodrome, Cronenberg, The Fly, The Shining, Terminator even. So there's lots of that influential stuff, but it's still doing its own thing. But the main thing that makes it stick out is the body horror. The body horror is next level, and it starts from the beginning. When we first, the transformation scene from Elizabeth into Sue is a long extended sequence, and it is so gross. It's like that. I was like gagging in several parts throughout this movie, and it just gets worse. Like, that's the end of Act 1 is the big transformation scene, and then it starts to escalate as kind of the stakes go up, because Sue becomes more and more successful, and she needs more and more time. Meanwhile, Elizabeth, kind of in a very Severance way, the TV show, she's kind of stuck always inside. Like, she's having to live vicariously through her younger self, because she's not really her younger self, even though the substance always reminds us there is only one person, but there's really not. But just the body horror of it is just, it's horrific, and it goes places that you didn't think. And again, these themes of this obsession, what we do to ourselves because of our obsession with youth and beauty, and ends up having the opposite effect in trying to keep that youth.
Yeah, and the way Elizabeth like predicts kind of where she thinks things will be going is the same thing you're doing in your seat, and you are also unsettled when things do not go the way we expect. And suddenly, like, when the ride is off the rails and we don't know where we're headed, like, you end up in this horrible place that is so delightful to enjoy. I have not felt this sensation at a cinema. I don't know if ever. Additionally, like, I just want to talk about the incredible lens work in this movie. My God, the close-ups. My God, the close-ups. Like, so extremely close up. You wish you could pull back on anything and everything, right? Whether it's Margaret Qualley being horrifically objectified in her Pump It Up segments that are hilariously too long, or Dennis Quaid eating shrimp in the first act in what might be the most grotesque scene in the entire film, which is saying a lot. Like, these extreme close-ups on these horrifying things that are just everyday body work, right? Like somebody eating or somebody smoking a cigarette, like, is such a great set dressing for what's to come when things get truly twisted. And on top of like genuine super saturation, high velocity, kinetic editing, like, I love the presentation of The Substance. This shadow company organization that produces this stuff has the slickest DVD, the slickest USB drive you could find to watch a presentation about the substance. The actual materials you get like come in this packaging with specific orders and title cards that tell you what to do. Like, it's just so delightful all the way down. It's lacking in, I guess people have said subtext. It's very on the nose, but that gives so much more room to like enjoy the horrifying things that you're seeing and feeling, right? Like, because the movie is so straightforward about what it's doing and what it's saying, what it has to say about beauty standards, God, and women's constant struggle to keep up with what is supposed to be the next new norm. Like, it gives you so much room to just like marinate in this awfulness, this despicableness. That's just so much fun.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the camera work as well. One of the very first scenes is Dennis Quaid in the restroom, and he's, using the restroom, and the camera is in his face, and it's so close, his whole face isn't even in frame. A lot of times you'll just get like an eyeball and part of his mouth, and like the camera does a lot of that throughout the whole movie, and that is symbolic in itself, the way everyone's under a microscope that's trying to be in the entertainment industry, but also the kind of double standard that all the men in the movie are really kind of gross. Like, he's gross. He eats as much as he wants. He smokes. He's got gross teeth. Meanwhile, the women have to be more than perfect. At one point, they put up a billboard of Sue, and her billboard is like super photoshopped, super airbrushed, like doesn't even look like her, because they've created an even more like grotesque, perfectly grotesque version of her, even though she looks amazing. And it's that kind of camera work that I think is just another, it's such a stylistic choice, and it's through all of it, through the procedure of of taking the substance and the transformations of the camera's just so close all the time.
Yeah. Additionally, with the razor sharp script, it's very funny. It's much funnier than you would expect. Like, for us sitting here talking about how horrifying and great the cinematography is, it's a very funny movie. You end up laughing a lot more than you'd think. Vince McMahon. Dennis Quaid plays this Vince McMahon kind of character, this like agent who's larger than life and wears all these flashy suits and is this very, very man's man, very forward, very gross. And yeah, his character intro in that very first scene is a great character intro. And I'm very pleased to say, like, it is one of Quaid's best performances in a minute. Like, I've been worried about our boy, right? Like, I thought maybe he's too far down the rabbit hole here, but like, he has turned out something fantastic here. Same with Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley continuing to turn out. It's a small cast. Like, these characters don't even have that many relationships in their lives, and you'd think for a 2.5 hour movie they would, right? Like, you'd have a full ensemble here. Nope, the substance doesn't need it. We don't need to waste our time with that. All right, like, we're getting to the goods right now. Boy, I just can't remember the last time I saw a movie where like I had no idea what was going and like couldn't wait to find out what was next. Like nail bitingly tense in the best ways.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of guesswork, and I definitely was nowhere close to what happened, which is what I love. And yeah, interestingly enough, Dennis Quaid's role was originally supposed to be played by Ray Liotta, who passed away tragically not too before he could film it. But Quaid's incredible. He has this kind of circus ringleader charm where he's got his eyes are always hugely opened, and he's got these outrageous outfits. He's got these boots that have like metal heels and are always clinking around everywhere. Like, he's such a charlatan and a character. I wanted to get into the soundtrack a little bit, the score of this.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of a Challengers-esque like club EDM kind of pump it up soundtrack through a lot of this, and it's really, really effective. It works really well with the whole movie.
Yeah, soundtrack is really tremendous, and like just kind of the general tone. Like, Coralie Fargeat, like, she's produced something genuinely lightning in a bottle here, and like I'm looking forward to seeing her previous film, but looking ahead, I don't know how she does this again. Like, there's something so uniquely special about this movie. I'm not sure she could do it twice. I think this is the kind of art that like it's so good, dude. It comes from a place like I don't know how you get back to it. What is it? Leonard Cohen used to say about good music. He said, if I knew where the good songs came from, I'd go there more often. The Substance is a good song, and I'm scared you can't do this twice. It's so good. Like, it's incredible, man. I need to go see it again. I need to find people to take to go see it with me, which is probably a good segue into recommendations, because I feel like I'm talking in circles. Andy, anything else you want to cover before we jump into recommendations?
Just wanted to really quickly mention that I did actually see it twice. Like I went and saw it the next day because it's also one of those movies that benefits from seeing it with the crowd because everyone's going to be grossed out,
Oh,
sick,
dude, yeah.
throwing up in the aisles, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I'm sure it'll be great at home, but like see it with a group, see it with friends, and it'll be a whole different experience.
Andy, would you recommend The Substance?
Absolutely. We've been looking forward to this for a long time, and for once it actually delivered. One of my favorite films of the year so far. One of my favorite horror films. An instant classic. And a lot of times we hear those superlatives, and it's just like it's used for marketing. But this movie's incredible. I've seen it twice. I could see it again this weekend if we didn't have other things to see. Highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, dude, run, do not walk to see The Substance. Go on a weeknight, take off work. Do whatever you have to do to see this movie in as big a screen as possible with the biggest crowd that you can. They are getting smaller every day. This movie is out. Go see The Substance, please. If you are a horror head, go see The Substance. If you've heard it's cool, go see The Substance. This movie rocks. It is a top 10 of the year, probably a top 5 of the year, possibly a top 3 of the year. Epic, incredible work. Like, please go see The Substance. This movie rocks. I don't have enough good things to say about it. It's the kind of movie that you walk out of it and you're just buzzing. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't wait to talk about it with somebody. Like, so twisted and so wild. Incredible time. The Substance absolutely rocks, dude. I don't think I have anything negative to say about it. I really don't. But with that, we should move on to upcoming things. We have some new trailers coming out. Andy, what do we call this segment?
It's time for the trailer park. So we just got 2 quick trailers that have just come out in the last two days, actually. Our first one is Thunderbolts, which is one of the upcoming Marvel projects. This was actually supposed to come out. I thought it was coming out in December of next year, of 2025, but it looks it's actually coming out in May. We see the first trailer for this, and I saw the poster and I was kind of skeptical, but then this trailer actually kind of rocks. And this has a big cast of Florence Pugh, Louis Pullman, Sebastian Stan, Rachel Weisz, even David Harbour, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and they're all playing different characters. I'm having a hard time keeping up with everyone, but it's like the Winter Soldier, Yelena Belova, the new Black Widow, Taskmaster, Ghost, Sentry. Some people you might be familiar with, some people maybe not. The action in this looks great. It looks like old school Marvel, like get you in your seat kind of things. It looks funny. This is kind of like a Suicide Squad, Black Ops-esque group. We don't really know why they're being brought together, but they are. And there is a great line that says, there's bad guys, and then there's bad guys who are even worse, and that's who we're going after. Something like that. This trailer actually I thought looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really does look like a good time, and that's exactly what Marvel needs at this stage. One of the things I think that people have really pointed out is there's a car chase sequence at the end of this teaser trailer. It actually looks like they went out and shot a car chase. It doesn't look like it's shot in the volume. You actually went to the desert and shot something out there. Incredible, right? Like that kind of kinetic new feeling is important. Like, I think that brings people back. And you got a rock solid cast, right? Rock solid. Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Wyatt Russell, David Harbour, that new Louis Pullman coming in. Excited to see him stepping into the Marvel universe. One question, though, I got to know, Andy, what do you think the asterisk is for, besides marketing? At the end of the name, it's Thunderbolts with an asterisk. Any ideas? I tweeted about this earlier this week. I think it's a gimmick. It's not anything particularly important, but I'm curious. You got any thoughts?
No, I've seen that too. Well, I mean, it's clever. It's people are talking about it. People are wondering about it. I think it's going to be disappointing, whatever it is. Can't be. They're not creative enough for it to be.
No, I'm imagining a room of Disney
Batman would
execs.
have to show up.
Yeah, dude. I'm imagining a room of Disney execs, and like they've got Thunderbolts written on a dry erase board. Then one guy comes up and like puts an asterisk next to it, and they're like, "Ooh, it's perfect. People want to know." Nobody really cares. I'm only asking about it because we do a movie podcast, and if anybody's going to care, it's the guys who do movie podcasts. So there you go. One more trailer to talk about before we move on to October preview. We need to talk about the trailer for Sinners. So this is a new Ryan Coogler feature. Directed Black Panther and Creed, of course, both starring Michael B. Jordan, who is returning for Sinners. This is a unique, new, original script written by Coogler. It features 2 brothers, both played by Michael B. Jordan, a set of twins, victims who return to their hometown to start their lives over. They encounter an evil presence and been waiting to welcome them back. Set in, I don't know, the Jim Crow South in what, the early 1900s, mid 1900s, I think.
It looks like
also,
20s, 30s.
Yeah, also stars Haley Steinfeld. And I know that it's got some, looks like maybe some vampire energy. That's what I've heard. A vampire movie. That was the rumors we were hearing about Michael B. Jordan here, but now we have a look at it. Very kinetic, very exciting, good costuming, lots of flames, lots of darkness. Andy, what do you think of the trailer for Sinners?
Man, I really like the look of this, and they really buried the lead. Like, it's all tone, it's all vibes. You don't see whatever the evil we think it's vampires, but
I'm guessing vampires. I don't really know.
We don't really know. Yeah. So originally Ryan Coogler was supposed to direct the next Blade film, and that kind of fell through. And so sources say that he was kind of like, well, I'll just make my own vampire movie. And so he's got Michael B. Jordan, and we're in the deep Jim Crow South. Michael B. Jordan's character has come, him and his twin brother have come back from the war, World War I or II, to their hometown to start their lives over when there's some sort of evil kind of there. This is very like Salem's Lot has a similar premise as well. But man, yeah, it looks scary. You got all these people in this big barn. They're grabbing weapons. They're grabbing anything they can, and they're waiting for something hellish to break in. And again, we haven't seen what it is, but this trailer is great. It's how we want to see it. And this is coming out in March 7th.
Yeah. Could be rad. I don't know. Coogler's kind of got a perfect track record so far. Same with working with Michael B. Jordan. So between the two of them, like, I would imagine something's going to pop here. We'll find out more, I guess, when we see more about Sinners. In the meantime, we got to talk about what's coming out this October. So there's some big releases, and we were looking ahead at the calendar and thought, you know what, it's probably worth just talking over these real fast before we jump into our review of His Three Daughters. Andy, what do we call this segment?
This is the death of cinema. October releases. There's a ton of stuff coming out in the next 2 months. A lot of times we do like a fall preview, but there's so much in October. We're just going to do our October preview. So October 4th, big release, Joker Folie à Deux, or Joker 2, for those of us who can't pronounce good French, will be coming out. That's the huge release, of course, with Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix. We also have A Different Man, which is a little indie film starring Sebastian Stan about a man who is born with all these tumors over his face and has learned to live life kind of with this kind of grotesque look, but then a cure comes about and he goes from having all these tumors on his face to looking like Sebastian Stan. And they used a real person that the person who starts does have that condition. Heard a little bit of buzz about that at the festivals. We also have The Outrun, which stars Saoirse Ronan as a London party girl who's gotten into some trouble and is an alcoholic, returning home to Scotland to kind of rediscover her roots, her family. A lot of Oscar buzz about this. People are saying she's going to be up for an Oscar. We'll probably check it out at least at some point, but that's October 4th. So 3 big releases that day.
Gosh, next up on October 11th, there's The Apprentice, which is the new Donald Trump biopic starring Sebastian Stan as well. My man is getting around this October. And also starring Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn. There's Saturday Night, which is that Jason Reitman Saturday Night Live kind of biopic. What looks like Lorne Michaels, the night that Saturday Night Live gets going. Got a bunch of young folks cast as the OG Saturday Night Live people. I'll bet like 3 or 4 of those inevitably become X-Men for Disney. We'll see. Could be a good time. And then on October 11th, we also have Terrifier 3. Andy, I think we're going to have to come around and watch these Terrifier movies. I don't think either of us have seen any of them. And being that the third one's coming out. Oh, you've seen the first? Okay. All right. Well, I need to talk to you about the first one then. Yeah.
The first one, 90 minutes, maybe. And I struggled to get through it. Because it's kind of the same thing, the whole thing. Art the Clown, like, captures people. It's torture porn. But just kind of the first one, I just got bored. Like it's 85 minutes and I struggled. And Terrifier 2 is 2.5 hours. And I was like, if I was bored at 90 minutes, I'm not making it through the next one. So I haven't seen the second one. But there's a lot of buzz. There's a fan base for it.
Yeah, sure.
Looking at the weekend of October 18th, we have We Live in a Time, which is the rom-com / tragedy starring and not Andrew Lincoln, Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, where Florence Pugh, they meet, they fall in love. Florence Pugh is dying. She has cancer. And it's like a rom-com about that situation. Some Oscar buzz around that as well. Smile 2 is also that weekend, the follow-up to 2022's Smile. That's probably going to be a big hit. A lot of Smile heads out there. And then Honora, the indie from A24, starring Mikey Madison as a stripper, sex worker who gets involved with the Russian mob, marries into the wrong family, and is try to survive this crazy ordeal she's gotten into.
Man, Honora plays great. We saw the trailer in front of Substance. Like, really looking forward to that movie. October 25th, last weekend, we got Venom: The Last Dance, third Venom feature. We were okay on the first two, but boy, they got a cult following, so I have no doubt that Venom Horse is going to hit big when that comes out on the 25th. And also Conclave, which was a movie I thought had kind of already come out. I just figured it was a smaller release, but this is the new Edward Berger feature, who did All Quiet on the Western Front, won Best International at the Oscars last year, right? We loved All Quiet on the Western Front. This is a film starring, who's in it? Ray Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, and John Lithgow. Ray Fiennes plays Cardinal Lawrence, who is functionally the man who's going to be picking the new pope for the Vatican. That's the term I'm looking for. And when he starts to get into the process of picking the new pope, that's when he discovers that there's some secret, shadowy things going on at the center of this very old institution of the Vatican and Catholicism and, Christianity, I guess. And he's got to navigate through that. Bit of a talking head movie, but, Edward Berger and some real talent on, in front of the camera, probably a great time. So that's what I know about Conclave.
Well, it sounds really dry. I've heard it's Knives Out meets the two popes, where it is, this kind of serious thing about choosing the new pope, but it's also, I guess, like comedic and kind of lighthearted and like buffoonery going on in, trying to manipulate the systems at play. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. But with that, we should jump into our final review of the episodes. Quick wrap on October. I don't know what exactly we're going to be watching in there. I'd say definitely Joker. I'd like to check out The Apprentice. Honora for sure, and then probably Venom, right? Those are going to be our weeks, and then we may just pepper in a couple of the others where we can.
Yep, and there'll be some, streaming releases as well, which we didn't really get into.
I also just realized 2 of these weeks I will be traveling and will not be here, but we will coordinate around that off podcast.
Bold cinema will continue.
That's right. For now, we need to jump into our last review of the episode. I'm going to be taking the summary on this, so please excuse my clumsy delivery. The film is His Three Daughters. So His Three Daughters is a smaller feature from director Azazel Jacobs over on Netflix. He also wrote the picture. It almost feels like a play at the open, but let me tell you what it's about. It is the story of Katie, Rachel, and Christina, 3 grown adult women who've all arrived at their father Vincent's New York apartment while he is dying. He's in hospice care. It is his last few days. He's not in the hospital. It's wrapping up. There's a couple of people that take care of him named Angel and Marabella. And the 3 of them basically have to wait. They just have to kind of wait for it to happen. He's got to do not resuscitate, and he's not eating or drinking anymore. And while the 3 of them are at this apartment over the next few days, they're going to talk and get together and talk about, what they love about him and what they hate about him and the things they love about each other and the things that don't work, and have just kind of family drama, a little bit of healing, a little bit of pain, kind of what you'd expect in like a 90-minute small feature like this. And I think what's really special about His Three Daughters is our leads. Carrie Coon plays Katie, Natasha Lyonne plays Rachel, and Elizabeth Olsen plays Christina. They're tremendous. The 3 of them are putting in the work. Katie is older, and she is so wound so tight, dude. Oh my God. She overthinks everything, and she's got 3 teens at home, and none of them listen to her, and her husband's not helping. And boy, if dad could just kind of get around to dying sooner rather than later, that'd be great. And meanwhile, Natasha Lyonne is Rachel, who is also older, comes from Vincent's previous marriage, I think. So she's not technically his kid or something like that. And she is a stoner. She does not want to deal with her problems. She actually lives at the apartment. She stays at home. She's smoking one every day. And she overall does not seem to be really very helpful, and really even does not want to go in and see her father in his last moments, which is strange because he lives there. There's something to that. And of course, in between the two of them, there's Elizabeth Olsen as Christina, new mom, one kid, all she thinks about, talks about her daughter all the time, can't wait to get back and take care of her, realizes that her two older sisters have some real struggle between the two of them. Between the three of them, they're going to have to figure out some kind of solution because dad doesn't have much time left. It's his three daughters over on Netflix. I think I've maybe talked too much around the premise, but let's get into it. Andy, what'd you think?
And I was really impressed by this. And I think I only found out about this last week. I didn't even see a trailer. I just saw that it was coming out on Netflix. And I saw the cast, and that was what drew me in. Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne, and Elizabeth Olsen. And they have such an interesting dynamic because they're sisters, but they're somewhat estranged. Natasha Lyonne is significantly younger, and they talk about, well, when the other two were off at college, she was still living at home, so she grew up kind of without these two older siblings. And Carrie Coon is this very suburban mom, annoyed by everything. She's annoyed that Natasha's character smokes all day. She smokes in the house. She appears to not really be helping out, and she's incredibly passive aggressive. She just doesn't Natasha's character doesn't really want to eat with them. Like, she was like, I'll just eat in my room. And she's like, well, there's more food here. There's more food here if you want any. Like, she's so passive aggressive. And then meanwhile, Elizabeth Olsen, her character is like a space cadet. She's like so out of it. And what you realize is she's not. She's very avoidant. She's trying to avoid conflict. She knows that there's, dissatisfaction between everyone. She's trying to not let it boil over. Anytime either of them says, particularly Carrie Coon's character, says anything to trying to this is a problem, that Elizabeth Olsen she just changes the subject. She goes off. She's like, I'm going to go do yoga. She's the one trying to keep the peace. So there's a lot of tension here that inevitably boils over, and it's going to. And when it does, it's fantastic. But it's ultimately about these three women who are somewhat estranged coming together and being brought closer together and developing relationships they didn't have through the passing of their father.
It's a very mature feature, and it's mature for a couple of reasons. A, because how it's produced, and B, because of its themes. First, on how it's produced. The film is almost entirely within an apartment. Like I said at the top, it could almost be based on a play. It could be adapted into one with ease. It is a very small cast. It is a very small setting. It doesn't move around a lot. And additionally, one of the things that's particularly interesting is you don't get a good look at Vincent for most of the runtime. I kept thinking, watching it, when are we actually going to see Dad in his hospice bed? And you don't really get a look at it. And it's for a couple of reasons. Natasha Lyonne's character, Rachel, can't really bring herself to see him. And additionally, the sisters cannot bring themselves to face their conflicts, to see how they're different and see how they could maybe grow through each other and with each other through this moment. And just like they avoid the conflict, we do not get to see kind of the thing they're directly conflicting, the thing they're dealing with, which is their father dying. Additionally, the reason it's, I think, thematically mature is because the three of them are so tangibly real. Like, anybody with siblings, I think, can relate to this feeling that you grew up in a house, in a setting with this other person, and fundamentally all started from the same place. But as you moved out and you moved away, you became different people and you found different values and you start to have different goals than you used to have. And before you know it, you're strangers again. And it's really interesting to have Natasha Lyonne's character, who has never left, has been there the whole time, has been taking care of Dad the whole time, right? In a way that the sisters don't understand. And additionally, the sisters see her as, boy, she's just a bum. She's just living here and has never figured it out. But really, she's had an entirely own set of struggles. Like, you all experience the same time in different ways. And it's kind of special that the three of them can get together in a warm, kind of cozy setting and talk about it. And I love the way the movie shoots around Dad, because the whole apartment is his. It's got these long lingering shots out the window where he used to look, on his recliner that he sits in, the cramped kitchen he's lived in for 20 years. Like, it's like their father is a character, but you just don't actually get to see him. So you end up getting a kind of pleasant run through from Act 2 to Act 3, where things really get moving and the sisters finally start talking and start to break through a little bit. And in that way, I think I I will say I do think I like the first half of the movie a little bit more than the second because it takes some creative liberties at the end. It's tough. How do you talk about death? How do you work that into a film, especially with something as sincere as this? I think Azazel Jacobs does a really good job, but it did unhinge me a little because I was so grounded in the first half of the movie that I didn't expect where it headed. But I do think people have a good time with it.
Yeah, I one of the things I wanted to talk about was how the father character, while we don't see him, we hear him because he has this oxygen monitor on and it just beeps the whole time, and it'll sound an alarm if his breathing stops. And so there's one point where we have a little bit of a scare like that where his breathing really slows down and they all rush in there, but his beeping is always there, so he's still like a constant presence even if we don't see him in most of the film. I also wanted to talk about Carrie Coon's character she's the oldest. She's like kind of the mom of the group. And I can tell she's the kind of person who prides herself on just having everything put together. Like, we need to get this DNR signed. How do we get this? I got to get a doctor here. We got to get a lawyer here. But then like when you hear her on the phone, she like has no control of her family. Like, she has her own daughters who do not listen to her. She's got a wild teenager who just, that she can't control and is upset that she can't control. And it's everyone kind of has to let go of something in this movie. And it's amazing watching the process of that happen.
Yeah, there's even the opening scene like sets up these three so well. And again, the three of them do such a good job. Each one of them has such a good rap on their script and their role and their importance in the story. Film opens with like this stark shot of Carrie Coon's in a turtleneck, like sitting against a white wall, talking about the situation and the problems. And she's talking to her sisters. And it's just Carrie Coon and white, solid, black and white. That's what you get. That's her character. She's stiff, she's stern, she's upright. You get across the table, Natasha Lyonne. Behind her is the living room. Big couch, big window, plant, television, casual, settled, right? Like, she's sitting back in her chair. She's wearing a hoodie. Her hair's a mess. Like, that's Natasha Lyonne's character. She is casual. She's chill. She's down to earth. And then in comes Elizabeth Olsen on the other side of the table, in from the entrance. Just arrived. Just got here. Hair's a little messy. She was just checking on dad. She's thinking about her daughter. She's a mile away. Like, just the opening scene like sets up these three characters in a way that is like so satisfying. It works visually, it works thematically. The three of them carry it through the whole rest of the movie. Like, really impressed at how solid the three of these three women do, like performing these roles. It's got to be, direction. Like Azazel Jacobs, man. I don't know. I'm not familiar with any of their work. I know they've done some TV stuff. I know they've done a couple small films, but this is the first thing I've kind of seen from them. Like, really fascinating. Really, really great work.
Yeah, if I have any criticism, it's that it's not very cinematic. Like I said, it feels like a play. I assumed this was based on a play, and it's not. This is an original work for this movie version. But again, it all takes place in this apartment. There's a few scenes outside with Natasha Lyonne smoking it on the bench, and she has some conversations with one of her sisters and the security guard that keeps walking by telling her not to smoke. There's a lot of funny moments in this. So the writing is top notch. It's incredible. There's some Oscar talk about this through these performances. But the direction is kind of bland. It's very stale. It's not very cinematic. So there's room for growth for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, I feel like I'm starting to talk in circles about it, so I should get to recommendations. Any other thoughts for recommendations, Andy?
I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend His Three Daughters?
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed this. It's a quick watch. It's only 100 minutes, and it's very powerful. It's a moving story with three incredible performances from Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne, and Elizabeth Olsen as these three sisters fighting it who haven't talked in a long time. And there's a lot of there's old grudges, new grudges, but they eventually have to work together to kind of get through what is happening around them. So highly recommend. And this is on Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix joint that I think is maybe worth the time. If you're looking for something quiet and something small, and it's a little heavy because it's obviously talking about death and family, but kind of cozy in that fashion, like, give it a go. I do think it has a really strong start. I really do like the first act of it, gets going real good. So just give it a shot, Like, one of the great things about streaming is you can maybe give it a break or come back or do laundry or something, but I got pulled into this really fast, much faster than I expected. I think it's worth the time. Like, you should check out His Three Daughters. Not a bad time. Smaller movie. I think it's worth the time. And with that, we should wrap the episode. A lot of stuff coming up soon, Andy. But next week, I know we're back a day early because I got something going on Tuesday. We'll be back on Monday the 30th. What are we watching?
It's finally time for, I almost said Brian De Palma, Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, the huge epic undertaking starring Adam Driver. The plot that I'm not real sure about. He's an architect or something. This is out now. We're going to be catching it this weekend. We're going to be reporting back. This is the movie he self-financed for $120 million. That's been plagued with trouble, people quitting, scandal. So we're going to see what that's all about. We're also going to be taking a look at Oddity, which came out in the summer and is now going to be available on Shudder, which is another horror movie. I don't really know too much about it, but I've heard a lot of good things. Heard it's creepy. And some other releases that are just happening this week in case you're curious. The Wild Robot, which is a new animated feature that I've heard really great things about out of the film festival circuits. Lee, which is the Lee Miller biopic starring, oh gosh, I'm blanking. Catherine. She was in Titanic. Kate Winslet.
That's right.
Kate Winslet as Lee Miller. Wolves. This is going to be on Apple TV, which is the heist something or other film with Brad Pitt and George Clooney. That's on Apple TV if you have that. And Will and Harper, which is on Netflix this Friday. And that's the documentary of Will Ferrell and his friend Harper, who transitioned very late in life, like in their 50s or 60s. That's been getting a lot of buzz out. It's also on Netflix. But for next week, Megalopolis and Oddity.
Very excited about Megalopolis. I know just last night they did the big IMAX screenings of it, the one night only. We tried, man. I really tried to get tickets to it. It was a whole thing. We talked about it last week on the podcast. You can go back and listen. But I'm looking forward to watching it this weekend. Very stoked to see it. Hopefully won't hear any wild spoilers. So far, so good, though. And yeah, we'll check out Oddity, too. I know that one's a smaller one, but, stream and join. And I still got that Shudder sub, so, hey, I can use this and then maybe bail on that. We'll see. If you enjoyed the show today, best way to support us is to subscribe. You can like and comment, of course, wherever you're seeing the episode, and that's a big help, too. So if you can, please do. If you have the ability, though, if you can just pull one extra little something for us, hit that sub button. Right? You've been here once or twice. You've thought about it. Today could be the day you subscribe to Offscript Film Review. I know we'd appreciate it. You can subscribe on all of our audio locations, right? If you listen to the pod over there, we love our audio listeners, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartMedia, iTunes, of course. Always love the iTunes listeners. You can check us out on YouTube where we put full episodes, individual reviews, clips, shorts. Love the YouTube channel. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the usual social media stuff. You can find us out there. Our website is offscriptfilmreview.com, and you can email us correspondence directly to let us know what you thought of the movies. Get involved with the show a little bit at mail@offscriptfilmreview.com. Boy, that's the whole episode. Comes and goes so fast. Go see The Substance. Go see The Substance, dude.
Yes,
Substance
oh my gosh.
rocks. From all of us at Offscript, the home of Bolt Cinema, I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.